Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jarrell Mason, aka Jay Mason. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Album Cover, where we get inside the entertainment industry with those in the know and give them their flowers right here to be celebrated. With me right now, I have a fellow music R&B lover. She has her own podcast called I Felt That, where she digs into 90s, 2000s R&B and pop. So we're gonna get into all that and then some, and you're gonna feel this with my homegirl, Tera Nashay. Tara, thank you for coming on the
Yes.
podcast, and how are you?
Thank you for having me. I am just happy and elated to be here on today.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk shop with me about our favorite genre of music, which happens to be R&B.
Absolutely. The best. And it don't get no better than R&B. I'm a big fan of all music genres, but it's just something about R&B for me that's what does it.
Yeah, same as well. I'm a fan of all genres, but R&B is the wheelhouse, so let's jump right on in. Where are you from? Where were you born? And what was the first record that you can remember buying with your own money that you saved up and worked hard to go get at the local record store?
I am from Davenport, Iowa. Well, I live and reside and was raised in Davenport, Iowa. I was actually born in Memphis, Tennessee. So that's where we're from, but I was raised up here in the Midwest. So shout out to the Midwest. The first CD I can say that I remember actually, but you know what? You remember those CD ads they would send out? Like you can get like 10 or 12 CDs for like 99 cents.
Oh yeah,
You remember that?
that's how I built my collection. Thank you, Columbia House.
Yes. Thank you. And that's where I got, so I can't even say that I paid for them because I ordered the CDs and we would never pay for them. But that's where I started my CD collection. Now, the first CD I can honestly remember getting as a child that made me have a different love for music is Brandy's album with that Never Say Never.
Mhm.
I remember getting that album for Christmas one year and I played it to death over and over and over again. And that's personally one of my favorite artists to this day, Brandy. So,
As some people would say, Brandy is the vocal Bible. Now, I want to backtrack where you mentioned Columbia House, where you get 12 CDs for a penny. BMG Music Group did that as well. You would normally find that in the Sunday paper with USA Today and all the other inserts,
yeah,
but it was
yeah.
kind of like the early music subscription service. But as we found out later, thanks to them lawsuits, folks were getting finessed. But that's
For
how I ended
real.
up building my collection. And I find it interesting now that there was a CBS Sunday morning piece that came out about a month or two ago saying how the younger generation, the kids now, are getting into cassettes. Now that makes me feel old and washed to where
For
kids are wanting to
real.
go listen to cassette tapes and get the old school Walkmans. I'm like, I was there.
Did not know what we had to go through. You know what I mean? Having to loop that back through there to make sure everything is the way that it needs to be and having to rewind and fast forward. And man, we had it hard.
Yeah, yeah, we did, man. And then of course making mixtapes off the radio, and especially if your radio wasn't situated in the right spot of the house, if you didn't have
Right?
digital tuning, you would butt out
Right?
if you didn't get the tuning just right and the antenna was set all the way up.
Right. You had to get it in the right spot, in the right place, in the right position. It's like, don't touch it. This is how I
Mhm.
need it to be. Man, they don't know. They wouldn't understand.
Yeah, just like John B. They don't
They
know
don't
about
know.
this here.
They don't know about this here.
No, 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 they do not. And the one thing I will say, at least for me, from my perspective, coming from growing up in the South, North Carolina, and hearing R&B growing up as a kid, it was where late 80s, early 90s, on, at least on R&B radio, there was a mixture of everything. You had Luther Vandross, Sade, Anita
Mm-hmm.
Baker, Whitney Houston, George Michael,
Mm-hmm.
alongside what was emerging at the time with Guy, Keith Sweat, I'll Be Sure, New
Yeah.
Edition, Bobby Brown when he was on his solo tear. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just where R&B, at least at that point, you had a mixture of smooth, mellow for the adult, but young, aggressive energy
For
for
the
the youth because it was
Yeah.
where R&B and rap started to find their fitting with the new Jack Swing sound, and that was thanks to Teddy Riley and the work that he did with Keith Sweat on Make It Last Forever, which came out in '87 and launched what was to be known as the New Jack Swing sound.
I can dig it. I can dig it. It was the perfect time to be like alive because, like you said, it was all those different, all those mixtures. We got the privilege, the honor to, be able to see them when they first came out and, to witness their growth and to see them performing and living. Like it was just a time to be alive. Like it's unexplainable that how we I don't know. It's like such a difference now with the music now compared to what we grew up listening to, what we, you know, um, what was just kind of something so dear to us now is just like kind of falling by the wayside with kind of some of the newer artists. That's why I'm so big on the 90s music because, that's the music that still moves me. You know what I mean? Nothing
Mhm.
against the music from, this era right here or the newer artists that's putting music out. Still a fan of them and their music and, what they do. But it's like, meaning music back then had much more meaning. You know what I mean? It was more relatable. And it was like, the groups, the male groups and the female groups, like we don't have that like we used to back then. Like that's what it was for me being able to find my favorite person out of a group. Like I was just talking to somebody earlier, and I'm like, Ralph was always my favorite one out of New Edition. It wasn't anybody else for me. Like I always had my favorite person. So I don't know.
Mhm.
That's what I miss most about the '90s. Like you said, that came out in '87. That's the year I was born, but at the same time, that's what I got to grow up listening to, and it just
Right.
don't get any better than that.
Right, and speaking of New Edition, about a month ago, they got more flowers with a street being named after them up in Boston. And it kind of felt like, at least from my vantage point, after the miniseries in 2017, that they've been getting their long overdue flowers from the industry
They
in
deserve
their
them.
impact for the culture and how, for the modern day boy band, they set the blueprint. No New
Yep.
Edition, no New Kids on the Block, no Boys to Men, no NSYNC,
None
Backstreet
of that.
Boys, 98 Degrees. We can go
None of
on and
that.
on. And it feels
Mm-hmm.
like now the younger generation, because of the miniseries, have been introduced to this supergroup who has shaped and molded pop and R&B culture for over 40 plus years, and they're still touring, still kicking
They
butt and taking
are.
names whenever they come on that
Yep.
stage. So let's talk
There's.
about New Edition's impact on the industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um, I don't know. I remember that one. There's this one episode, like back in the day, too. These groups used to make like special performances on different TV shows. And I remember one of my favorite TV shows back then was Family Matters. And
Hmm.
there was a season or an episode where New Edition was actually on there, and Steve, or I don't know if it was Steve or if it was Stefan, one of them was up there while they were performing. And it was just like, that was just a time like to be a part of the Black culture, to be able to be on TV shows and stuff like that. And such an impact, like you said, just to music in general for the upcoming groups that came out. I don't know. I'm still in love. That album, that was one of the albums that I got for the penny. Was that album? It was the white and black. That was on the front. That I'm still in love. I can't remember what the name of the actual album was, but that was one of that's when I actually became a fan of them and their music. Like I said, I was young, but my older sisters and stuff was listening to this music. So I
Hmm.
was right on the bandwagon with them, to be
Right.
honest.
Right. And I think the album you're referring to is the Home Again album. That
Home
was
again.
their first album that they had released at that point in 8 years. And it was the first album where you had all six: Ronnie, Bobby, Ricky, Mike, Ralph,
Yep.
and
Yep.
Johnny. And now, with me being born in 85, I got to hear New Edition from Heartbreak on forward. So
Okay.
I didn't get back into their early material until years later, and
Okay.
then realizing that, okay, Bobby was the OG original member, and then of course went on his solo run with Don't Be Cruel. And then
Yeah.
when Johnny came in to the group, it added an extension to the NE brand and also boosted, to me, Johnny's profile, because Johnny was a solo artist prior to coming into New Edition. So when that meshing happened, it was a win-win situation for both parties. And then, as we all know, BBD spawned off after that. Ralph Transvant went on to kick off his
BBD,
solo career. Then
long
Johnny
time
went back
career,
into
yeah.
the solo arena now with Johnny's album that was released on Motown back in 1990. That album had both Jam and Lewis and Ellie and Babyface producing that album.
Woo,
One production team did one side, the other did the other. So
okay.
that just showed you that
That was
Johnny
magic
had the
right
goods where
there.
he could get LA and Babyface and Jimmy Jam Terry
To be able
Lewis
to get
to do
them
your full
to
album.
do right. Yeah, that says a lot right there about how much motion he actually had back then, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, definitely. And then I mentioned Bobby and how in 1986 when Bobby put out the debut album King of Stage, to me it felt a little uneven because it felt like MCA was still trying to milk the good boy Bobby image from New Edition by putting, Girlfriend and Girl Next Door, those are great records, did what they
Hmm.
needed to do. But when you go listen to the title track off of the album King of Stage, I think it's the last track on the album, you could kind of hear the direction that he wanted to
He
go
was
in
going.
with
Yeah.
Don't Be Cruel and him linking up with LA and Babyface. And then when Don't Be Cruel hit, he was able to milk that album from 88 to 92 when the Bobby album came out.
Okay.
And Don't Be Cruel, more 10 times platinum, best-selling pop album of 89, and really launched Bobby into the pop superstar stratosphere to where when you look at male R&B singers in the past 40 plus years, the Ushers, the Chris Browns, Trey Songz, we go down the list, all of them had to come through the Bobby Brown toll and
Yeah,
be
for
influenced
sure.
by Bobby in some
Bobby.
way, shape, or form.
Hmm. Absolutely. Bobby is they definitely Bobby deserves his flowers for sure because like you said, if it wasn't for him, he was the one that kind of paved the way for those artists now. Even the moves and all that stuff. Bobby
Hmm.
had all that back then,
Hmm.
just to I don't know. It was just a time to be able to witness them in their, you know, when they were just being discovered and they had all that spotlight on them.
Hmm.
It was it. It was
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, now you mentioned girl groups as well. Who were some of your favorite girl groups you listened to growing up?
Growing up for sure, obviously SWV and Escape. Um, but I was too well, although 702 didn't have too many songs, I was a big fan of them as well. Um, and then as I got older, obviously Destiny's Child or Beyonce now was one of my favorite groups. I don't know. I've just always been a fan of pretty much everybody, and I always looked out like the girl groups and the boy groups are what I love the most. Like obviously just the regular independent artists, cool, but it's just how the groups come together and they have their own personalities and their voices, meshing together.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's just I just really really loved the girl groups and boy groups back then. So that's
Yeah,
what I feel is really, really missing now. Like, you know,
mhm.
in
Yeah,
groups.
yeah, groups are missing. I don't know if you've seen this show on Netflix. It's called Building the Band, where it's a mixture of American Idol, The Voice, Love is Blind, Married at First Sight, to where you have unknown singers going to a booth and you're picking people sight unseen, voice heard. And the first
Yes.
time you're meeting them is when you are blended together as a group. And full disclosure, I saw it already, but the groups that I've seen, I'm like, okay, you guys remind me of mixture of this group and that group, or this group and that group, which shows, hey, you guys have paid attention to those
Mhm.
that came before you, and also seeing the phenomenon of K-pop. They pretty much studied everything that's been going on over here and
Yeah.
just took it to the maximum level.
Yeah, for sure. And I seen the previews for that show. And I said that when I had the time, I was going to actually go back and watch it because I like to just binge watch. I don't want to just watch the episode and wait. So I'm like, I want to watch that because that's interesting because that's the probably the best way to form a group. You know what I mean? just take everything else out of it because sometimes the parents seem like in Dreamgirls, how Effie was the one with the voice, but
Mm,
Beyonce was the one with the looks. So sometimes everybody don't get a fair chance, and just being able to take the visual out, just
mm.
basing it based on sound and how that's yeah. So I definitely want to find time and tap into that, especially now since you said how everything goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of made me think, with today's kids and just them being very diverse and just thinking about how back in the day to where when groups were formed, it was either going to be all black, all white, all
Right.
boy, all girl. Gone are those
Mm-hmm.
labels and those restrictions. Whereas we're going to put together a group that we want,
It
whether
don't
it be
matter.
mixed gender, mixed
Yes.
race, and that it's going to be great and it's going to work.
Yeah. That's yeah, and you're right. Now that you say that, I never really paid any attention to that, but it really has been just like all black group, maybe a mixed person here or there. You know what I mean? But as far
Mm,
as white and black and a Mexican and like you don't see that. So it's very interesting. I'm
right.
very excited to see what comes from it, if anything.
Right, which kind of makes me think what Color Me Bad was doing back in the early 90s. That was like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, to think about it in 91, 92, they have a
Mm-hmm.
mixed race group
You're
blow.
right. That is probably the only group that I can think of now that you color me bad. Yeah, but they were a little before my time too. But I
Mm,
I remember their music and I remember it being such a diverse group of
mm,
men. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, when I Want to Sex You Up hit, that song took off like gangbusters. It was the number two biggest song of 1991. The CMB album pretty much sold many of units, and I had a chance to interview Kevin Thornton from Color Me Bad years ago. He
Really?
was telling me, yeah, because when I Want to Sex You Up exploded, people were buying the single only, and that led to Cassandra Mills, who was the head of Giant Records, to rush them in the studio to put out an album because we want to capitalize off the heat of I Want to Sex You Up. And also a little
Yeah.
tidbit for you. That record was originally intended for BBD, but they passed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder how they feel knowing you know what I mean, the outcome
Mm.
of how well the song did. I wonder how they feel about that, knowing that they had a chance to have it first.
Well, BBD did all right for themselves too. Poison, a great record, great album, and that really launched their solo endeavors. And people were taken by surprise when BBD popped the way that they did. You're thinking, okay, Ricky Bell, Michael Bivins, Ryan DeVoe from New
Mm-hmm.
Edition, the back the back line of New Edition, which I felt they were the glue of the group, while Johnny and Ralph were up in the front. BBD as the three, they held it
All had
down
some pain. Yeah,
while Ralph and Johnny shined in the front. So to
that's
see
true.
when Poison took off in their success, and then later what Michael Bivins did with Biv 10 and putting on ABC, Boys to Men, and how because of ABC and Crisscross, I felt launched everything that came out of Atlanta after that with, Outkast, Goody Mob, T.I., Ludacris, all that was attributed to, ABC and Crisscross both
Yeah,
exploding at the same time.
yeah. And that like put Atlanta on the map for sure.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
a lot of great artists came out of it's like so many artists that I reflect on because that's one thing about my podcast. Like I'll take the time and we do background on the artists, where they're from, where you know what I mean, when they were discovered, and a lot of the artists that I reflect on right out of Atlanta.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
Jermaine Dupri, one of producer, he's responsible for a lot of the talent too, of the newer generation too. So yeah, it was a lot going on down there. They produced a lot of great hits from right in Atlanta.
Yeah, something in the water, or should I say there's something in the Waffle House in Atlanta, but Jermaine Dupri, one of the mainstays of the industry and is recognized as being one of the ones. He's one of one. And I don't know if you're familiar with Tracy Spencer. She may be a little bit before your time, but female R&B
Yeah,
singer, signed to Capitol Records, got her starred on the show Star Search, which was at the time was the
I remember
American
that.
Idol, The Voice, America's
Yep,
Got
I remember
Talent
that.
of his day, hosted by Ed McMahon. But I bring her up just because of the fact that she's from Iowa, from Waterloo, I
Oh,
believe. And
oh, she's
then
Waterloo.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I believe she's from Waterloo, Iowa, and just how she was one of those ones too, when she was active out in the scene, and then now she's making her way back out to the industry doing shows and whatnot, and it was great to see her doing her thing. Then, of course, at the same time, you had Shanice Wilson, you had Countess Vaughn put out a record, Tisha Campbell from Martin put out a
Yeah,
record. I
for her.
mean, it was
You are
to
right.
where that time period, 90s, it was where you could just throw a dart and pretty much you knew somebody was going to put out something, whether it be a group or a solo artist. And it was where labels were really taking their time and developing acts to where if they felt you weren't ready yet, you were going to get that development deal first and you were going to
Okay.
be honed and crafted. And when they felt you were ready, they were going to put you out. Whereas with
Okay.
now, because of
That's where
internet
you
and
have
social
to.
media, you already got to come out already polished. What's your
Hmm.
stats? What's your likes, your clicks, your
Where you're
follows, your
following. What are your
impressions?
views? What
So
your
that pretty much
yeah.
eliminates the legwork for the industry because they want you to come out the box already ready to sell and
Yeah.
go.
Yep, you're right about that. You are right about that. Now it's not so much about the talent. You know what I mean? And they don't even really take the time to put that work into the artist, like knowing, okay, no, they're not ready right now. Taking the time to put into that to polish them and get them ready. They just throw them out there if they got a good following. There's
Mm,
one, and she's not R&B, but I can just say, she's a rapper. Can't even think of her name right now. But they threw that girl out there, and it's just like she's not even. It was just all about her body. It was just all about, she had a big following. She had a lot of fans just based off of her history, doing what she was doing. It's just like, but she's not an entertainer, really. She's not really, a lot of these artists don't even write their own music anymore. It's like,
mm,
wow, so many people were known for writing their own music, and that's what made them creative and whatnot. And now it's just like they getting it from anywhere. They rapping about anything, singing about anything, and it ain't no meaning to it. And it's just like I miss the old music.
mm. Right. And speaking of writing their own music, we're recording this interview on Saturday, September 27th, and on yesterday, September 26th, which was Friday, Mariah Carey just released her new album. And to me, that's the one thing that set Mariah apart from all the other female singers that were out, was that she wrote her own stuff later in her career. Because as we saw earlier in her career, it was handled by whoever Columbia had picked to be the songwriters for, which is great to workshop and to get songs from other songwriters and stuff. But in order to have longevity in the business, you gotta write as well. But once again, the difference, at least in my opinion, between her and Whitney was that Mariah wrote most of her stuff, and I believe Whitney didn't write most of her records. But I
That's
want
true.
you to give me your take on Mariah and to see how, from 1990, where she dropped with Visions of Love, to where in 2025, she just dropped the album into where she's gonna be eating good forever for all the songs that she's written, plus that little song you hear every
Merry
Christmas
Christmas.
season.
Just for that, she make a killing just off of that every year, just from that. I don't have a lot for Christmas. Period. She's getting paid off of that forever. She really don't have to do another album. Even though anytime an old artist does a new album, I'm there for it because it's like, yeah, keep on putting your music out. And especially if you're actually writing your music, I listen to see what they have to say. Like I'm listening for the story. I'm listening for, to see if you still got it, how you sounding. Mariah is one of those, like, obviously she don't have it how she used to. You know what I mean? She can't hit those high notes like she used to, but she still sounds pretty good in my opinion. Um, Watching some of her newer like performances and of her, she's not getting around how she used to, but it's Mariah Carey. Like, I think what artist was it? Money Long. I think Money Long had recently sung one of her songs. They were paying a tribute to
Oh yeah,
Mariah
yeah,
Carey
yeah.
or something.
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah, and she got a lot of backlash saying, "Oh, she didn't sound like Mariah." Personally, I think nobody can sound like Mariah. Mariah doesn't even sound like Mariah anymore. I don't think she could have got up there and sung her own song how she used to back in the day, but Money Long sounded good singing it. She made it her own. You know what I mean? And why try to mimic someone that you can't? That's not. You know what I mean? But just to be able to give her flowers and to sing a Mariah song in front of Mariah, that's a
mhm.
flex in itself. So yeah, I'm excited about the new album. I want to hear what it sounds like, and I think I might have heard a song or two when they were saying that she was coming out with a new album, but has it already dropped or is it on the way still or what is the
The album dropped as of Friday, September 26th, so it's out on
oh
all streaming platforms. Because the
okay
only record I heard off of the new album, it was can't recall the name of the record. She performed it at the BET Awards this year, and it sampled
okay
Eric B. as president from Eric B. and Rakim, and she had the Mr. Rakim himself, come and bless and do a verse that he did on that album. So I'm definitely
oh
looking forward to hearing that and to just think about how Mariah started when the industry was ran by a few labels and it was the machine that was pumping it to where it's now. She's known by the social media generation. I mean, you have generations of young girls who were raised off of Mariah,
yeah
vocally patterned themselves after her. I mean, you hear her records every Christmas, and it's
mm-hmm.
to where, she's one of one.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. And so many of her I'm like like obviously some of the newer music they take and remake the old music and try to make it their own.
Mm.
And Mariah is one of those, she had so many hits back in the day to where I think it might not have even been an R&B artist. It was Lotto that took one of her songs and kind of
Yeah,
added
yeah,
it
yeah.
to it. I think
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
Lotto.
yeah, yeah. It was Lotto because she sampled Fantasy
That's
for
what it was.
Big D Energy, which in
Yes.
turn Fantasy was a sample off of Jeans of Love by the Tom Tom Club, which was a band that was founded by two of the former members of Talking Heads. If you know, you know. Now
Yep.
with Mariah, when you think about her earlier career, it was strictly pop with a little bit of an R&B lean, but I would say
Mm-hmm.
once she hit um, Dream Lover and Fantasy, that's when she really
Yeah.
started to get more heavy into her R&B bag. And
R&B.
then once Butterfly hit, that was it. She was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go full blown R&B because Mariah was straight up
She was
R&B
more
and
pop
a
back
heavy hip
then.
hop head because
Mm-hmm.
Jermaine Dupri
Jermaine Dupri.
had said
Yep.
on the R&B Money podcast when Tank and Jay Valentine were interviewing him, he was telling them the story about how Always Be My Baby came about and how Mariah came to the studio and was like, I want to do something that's like, just kicking it by Escape. So go back and listen to Just Kicking It by Escape and
Okay.
then listen to Always Be My Baby by Mariah.
Okay.
And if you think
Okay.
about it, that record is pretty much just kicking it with prettier chords.
I'm gonna have to now. I got to go back and listen to it, and I'll message you once I have a chance to, so I can like. Oh my god, I never would have. I don't know. Usually, I pick up on stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, this sound like this is like a little twist to like. Okay, for
Yeah,
sure.
yes, it's like Mariah was able to add that pop shine to a gritty R&B record because a lot of people are surprised to know my favorite Mariah record of all time is Breakdown that she did with
Break,
Bone
break
Thugs and Harmony.
down, steady breaking me on down. Yes, that's my favorite right there.
Yeah.
There is no like, and that's another thing. Like mixing the two, that R&B and the rap. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's another level of being able to incorporate the two together.
Hmm.
It's just like magic. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites.
yeah, and that kind of brings me back to what I was mentioning earlier with Keith Sweat and Make It Last Forever. When that came out in '87, rap and R&B prior to that was on both sides of the dance floor. You're eyeing each other. Somebody's scared to make the first move, and then
Right?
it took one person to go across the room and say, "I don't know your name, but excuse me, miss. I saw you from
Hey.
across the room." Took it by the hand, met in the middle, and you
And
created
that's
beautiful
that.
magic.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been like that ever since.
Mixing the two.
Mixed in
Yes.
the
Can't
two.
get
And
no
I will
better.
also say this as well. Full Force kind of set the groundwork for that prior to when Teddy came out with Make It Last Forever with Key Sweat at 87 with their work with Lisa Nicole Jam, UTFO, Cheryl Pepsi Riley, because they had that hip hop sound, that aggressive New York sound as well. So they laid the
Mhm.
foundation for that as well. And then Uptown Records, rest in peace, Andre Harrell, their movement with what they were doing. And of course, I'll Be Sure came out of Uptown Records. Guy, of course, Uptown Records. Jodeci from my neck of the
Mhm.
woods, NC, you know,
Mhm.
Uptown Records, and changed the game with their production, with their songs. And Casey always gonna sing like he got a disconnect notice from North Carolina Power and back 3 months rent. He gonna sing it to you like the rent do
He crying, okay? Do you hear me?
every
Crying
time,
through the
every
lyrics.
time, every
You
time.
gonna feel him, you gonna hear him.
You gonna know it's KC, and then
You gonna
also
know it's
I
him.
think one of the things I've grown to appreciate more when listening to Jodeci is I didn't realize how cold vocally JoJo was, especially if you listen to Jodeci on headphones. You
Hmm.
really get to hear the full sound, and also that's the brainchild of the genius that is Mr. Devontae Swain.
Yes, 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 yes. They had the perfect little blend. Like, yeah, Casey was mainly the one that did most of the crime, but it was so much to JoJo too, to where it's just like you couldn't he didn't have to do all that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You could
Hmm.
just hear him through what he was saying. I don't know. Sometimes it don't take all that extra stuff. And
Hmm.
JoJo for me was just like that perfect balance, to kind of
Hmm.
smooth things out and to get his point across too.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Also, kind of like once again the bring back with No Addition, how when Johnny came in, it balanced them out to where, Johnny's baritone smoothed out Ralph's, tenor, and how that mixture
Mm-hmm.
really helped rounded out their sound and really brought home the point of what they were doing with the Heartbreak album, where we're not those same guys that did Candy Girl 5 years ago.
Right.
We're young men now.
And now,
And
yes,
Johnny
yes,
put BTA on Boys to Men, even though he said in the behind the music, he didn't like the record because when Johnny came into New Edition, Jimmy and Terry told him, "Hey, look, this ain't gonna be your album because you're walking into an established group. This is Ralph's group, so you're pretty
mhm,
much gonna play the background." And Johnny was, of course, like, "Okay, it's no problem." And then, of
right.
course, once he got Boys to Men, like I said, he went BTA on it, and then that song inspired four men from Philadelphia to name themselves after that song and become one of the best-selling male groups in history.
I never even knew that. I promise I did. Okay. I
Yeah.
love Boys to Men. Oh my gosh. They were like when I was coming up, like I was a part of that era. Like I said, New Edition
Mm,
was a little before my time,
mm,
but I grew up listening to it and being able to enjoy, the music. But Boys to Men for me, that's yeah, those
yeah.
four like yeah, I don't know. I just love, and again, that's what takes me back to having such a love for the boys group,
Mm,
or in groups in general, but really the boys groups, like just that deep baritone. You know what I mean? And
mm,
them all having the perfect melodies to sound
right,
just perfect when they're
right,
delivering the music. And yeah, I don't know. It
right,
was just it was just the perfect blend.
right. And the smart thing that Michael Bivins did with them was he recognized early on where it was like, hey, you guys are going to be an extension of the groups that came before you on Motown, Smokey Robinson, Miracles, Four Tops, The Temptations. Jodeci got that street lean. You guys are going to appeal to, mainstream and too, because my favorite Boyz II Men album is Cooley Eye Harmony. Even though two was their monster album, Cooley Eye Harmony for me was my favorite album, produced by Dallas Austin. He was able to mesh their doo-wop harmonies, their pop appeal look, and give them a hard street sound. And it was game over once End of the Road took off.
Did the road took off? That
and
was big. Ooh,
and
wee.
when that song broke Elvis's record for most consecutive weeks at number one, that's when you knew Boyz II Men was a force to be reckoned with. Because when Motown Philly dropped in '91, that was a slow burn record. And then when It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday came out, which was originally done by G.C. Cameron, formerly of the Spinners, for the movie
Yeah,
soundtrack to the movie Cooley High,
yeah.
and how when Boyz II Men took that record, it was unconventional at the time because you didn't really hear, at least around 91, 92, a straight a cappella record on the radio. And it was getting played heavy
Mm-hmm.
on not only R&B but top 40 radio as well, and that started the ascent for them into the pop stratosphere. And then of course End of the Road and the Monster album from 2 and all those cuts off of there really just let people know, hey, Boyz II Men is a force to be reckoned with. And
Not to be played with.
then here's the connection with Boyz II Men and Backstreet Boys. When Lou Pearlman had put out the ad to have auditions for what was to become Backstreet Boys, I believe in the trade publication, the ad said, "We want a group with a New Kids on the Block look, but with a Boyz II Men sound."
Oh, okay. And that's how that how they came from.
And that
The
and that's
Backstreet
and
Boys.
that's how they came. And I want you to tell me why for you Boys to Men is very special for you.
For me, I don't know. It was like they had a soft side to them. You know what I mean? Like a soft side to them. Like I said, just the harmony of their voices together. They were just like they had the perfect look. Like I said, with Jodeci, they were known to be kind of the, you know, Boys to Men was safe. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
could listen.
yeah, yeah.
It was okay for me to listen to Boys to Men and to vibe out to them. And them boys was singing on there. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I wasn't supposed to be really listening to Jodeci and H Town because it was a bit much. But Boys to Men, they're singing about love. They're singing about, how they want their women back. It's just
mm.
different. It's just the vibe that
Right,
came off of them. Like,
right.
you know, yeah.
Right. Yeah, because credits, think about it, during that era, of course, we're of the same age, and to kind of think about R&B during that time, I'm like, should I be listening to this record called Downtown? Should I be listening to this record
For
called Freak Me? Should I be listening to this record called Knocking the Boots?
real. Knocking
Should
the
I be
boots.
listening to a record
They
called
like it
Humping
slow.
Around? And then thinking about it to where I know some of you probably did this, where you did a Bobby Brown record for a talent show and you got pulled off the stage because you snuck and did a pelvic thrust or humped at the floor. I never did it. I was too young, but the limitations is up. So tell
Well,
on yourself.
somebody did it.
I mean, because when I was 7, 8 years old, when I first heard Downtown for SWV, I thought Coco was talking about going shopping.
Listen, I never knew what they was really talking about. I just knew it sounded good, and I knew I loved to hear him singing it. I really didn't know what it was. That's why I don't really take much offense to when my kids listen to some of this music because I know
Mm-hmm.
they don't really even know what the hell they
Mm-hmm.
talking about. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I make you surrender to my love. Like we had no, you know what I mean? All that
Mm-hmm.
music, it wasn't really what we were supposed to be singing. But I feel like for the most part, Boys to Men's probably most over the top song was "I'll Make Love to You," and that's not. They wasn't really even. You know what I mean? It was still the perfect tone, and I could get away with singing it and not get in trouble.
Yeah, because it was written by Mr. Face himself, Babyface, Kenneth
Babyface. Yep.
Babyface Edmonds. Because Babyface, he's gonna give you records that's gonna be
They're
safe,
safe.
parent tested, parent
Yes.
approved. I mean, he wrote, "I give you good love, I buy your clothes, I'll cook
Yep.
your dinner too. Soon
Yep.
as I get home from work, I'll pay your rent. Your day's over. Soon as I get home from work." He wrote records where if you were to be Mr. Button Up, Mr. I go home, be responsible every day, come on to my wife, have a steady girlfriend, don't cheat around.
Yes.
Those are the
Yes.
songs for you.
For
But
you.
there's some other songs that was all about if your man ain't doing nothing for you, just look at me as a tasty side order. Shout out to Big Daddy Kane. And just thinking about how, the writing in those records, you really had to decode and decipher what they were
What they
talking
was really
about,
saying. Exactly.
because while they wouldn't come out and say it, you knew it was
Mm-mm.
something.
You
I knew when I was 8 years old when I saw the video for "Come Inside" by Intro on Video Soul. I knew he wasn't talking about coming inside the house. I knew it was
know.
something,
It
and
was
I
something
found
more
out what
to
that
it
something was
when
once
you
I
got
found
older.
out the long version on the cassette. And because BET would cut the video off right before it got
Yes.
good, I'm like, okay,
Yes.
I knew something was going
It's
on.
more to it.
It's more to it than that. Whereas
Mhm.
now it's all out
It's just
there.
out
And
out there.
how back in the day we thought "Put in Your Mouth" by Akinelli was risque, but no,
Not
that,
no.
that that is tame
And
compared to now.
Even JD said that. He recently said that. It was like, dang, can we get back to like the music for the younger, like when we wrote music for the younger generation, it was for the younger generation. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It was now they write the music that the younger generation is singing. It's just like, this ain't it. This ain't it.
Right, right.
Like,
Because when you think about, I'm gonna give you another record that was sneaky subliminal, but it was age appropriate. "This Little Game We Play" by Subway in
absolutely,
702.
Subway. In 702, yeah. I said I recently had posted that and I said this is the reason I was pregnant early. But at the same time, you knew it was more to just a game. They weren't playing hide and seek. They was playing
Nope.
hide and go get it. You know what I mean? It was a little more to it.
Yeah, yeah. Some of y'all was getting fresh at the middle school, high school dances. Lights was off. Teachers somewhere on the other side of the
House
gym.
parties,
You sneaking
man.
a fit. You
What?
sneaking a field somewhere, and hoping that she don't
Morgan?
say nothing. This behavior would not be condoned now, but it was a different time. It was a different era. So
Yes.
yeah, you definitely can't get behind a girl and grind now. But
Not
in
now.
the
No.
'90s and early 2000s,
You
boy.
could get away with it. That's
If
what
you
we was
did,
doing.
if you did, and she hit you with that look for a minute, you better be prepared for rejection or be a winner, depending on how she felt that
Or
day. You know what I'm saying? But I was the type that played the wall. I chilled like I was Orange Juice Jones in the rain. So
right.
instead,
Like if
I
somebody come
chilled.
up, it's
I
cool,
chilled over
but
by the punch bowl. You know what I'm saying? I did go to socialize
play
and
the
whatnot.
safe.
I just saw who I needed to see. Maybe get my dance on once or twice, and
Right.
then go on back. But I
I'm
want
here for the
to.
music.
Yeah, I'm here for the music, but I wanted to talk about, you were singing "Surrender" earlier by, to me, one of the most underrated
Cut
female
close.
R&B groups of the '90s, Cut Close, and
Mm-hmm.
how they only had one album,
You only
but
have
that
one.
one
You only
album
needed
was
one.
a banger though.
I like the way oh, they had so many hits like that. Yes, I'm still doing an interview. Thank you. My daughter told me, Dad, you still doing the interview? Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, but Cut
But no,
Close, one album, banger album I like, and they
mm-hmm.
were featured on a lot of Key Sweat records, and it was
Mm-hmm.
also, you had Moke and Steph at that same time. You had Divine, who came out
You
a
had
couple years
Divine. I love
later.
Divine.
It kind of
Yep.
For Real, Assorted Flavors,
Mm-hmm.
Before Dark,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Janae,
You said Janae earlier. Yep. Janae, love them. Um, it was a changing faces.
Changing Faces was
You
another
had
good one.
them.
And then
Um,
go ahead.
what was that one? No, I'm just trying to think. It was so many different ones. A lot of them too that where they weren't around for long, but they had some hits. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That we vibed out to. Total. That was
Total,
another group. I love
total,
Total.
totals, another group, and
Oh,
I'm gonna give you one person. She's a female R&B artist. She was R&B back in the day, but now she's pivoted and made a shift in country, and she's really gotten her flowers in that genre. And to me, that was Tanya Blunt.
I remember. Yeah, yep, 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 yep. I didn't follow her past the whole R&B.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
where is she?
yeah. You heard of the country group, The War and Treaty?
No.
Yeah, The War and Treaty. So that's her and her husband.
Oh,
Yeah, so
really?
she's country now. So definitely check them out.
She's country now.
Yes,
I
yeah,
will. Country.
yeah,
Huh.
she's country, but her Natural Woman album severely under promoted. And
Mm-hmm.
well, she was signed to Mercury, and Mercury really had a track record of not doing well by R&B acts. You had Shamari, who was signed to Mercury, another underrated male R&B group of the '90s. Joe was originally signed to Mercury, put out his debut album Everything in '93
Mm-hmm.
before switching over to Jive, and that can also kind of play a part into why artists and groups don't crack or succeed because the record label may not be the right fit because okay,
Mm-hmm.
Mercury may be known for more pop rock, Jive is more known for pop R&B,
Right.
Capitol is known for this, RCA is known for that. So it's all about also too getting with the right label that can properly promote, market you, but also at the end of the day too, you gotta have good songs.
You got to have the right songs too. You know what I mean? It's all about that. You got to have the song right time too. Like you know what I mean. You got to have that. You got to find that target audience that's going to just
Mm,
lock in with the music.
right,
Yeah.
right.
There's a lot that goes into it.
I'm curious. Are you familiar with the group Troop?
I'm not familiar with them. I've heard of them, but no, I'm not familiar with them at all.
Yeah, you have to check them out. Troop, they are considered the West Coast New Edition, and Steve Russell, member of Troop, went on to become a producer, songwriter, part of the Underdogs songwriting team. He wrote "Gas to Be" for B2K.
I used to love B2K too. Okay,
Now,
okay,
B
okay, okay.
now B2K, they're the same age as me. I was hating. Yes, I was one of those haters, because I wasn't them. But that was the one record that to me let me know B2K was going to be something serious. Because to me, when they were at their height, they had that same appeal that New Edition had when they were at their peak, pop wise, where you appealed to both R&B and pop. And I believe that they are prepping to get back on the road, go on
Yes, they
tour
are.
again.
Yeah.
B2K, and how girls who are of my age range are going to be pulling down those posters of J Boog, Raz B,
Raz
Lil
B,
Fizz,
all of them.
Marion, and say,
Mm-hmm. Yep, they show is. I had all of them. The Word Up magazine. I had every goddamn poster from Word Up and everywhere else of the whole group. I loved all of them to be completely honest. And once I
mm,
actually heard about what they actually went through, as when
mm,
stuff started to come out,
right.
I was just like, that's sad that here we are just thinking that they live in a good life, doing what they love, and not even really knowing what it is that they're dealing with
Yeah,
you know, off
yeah,
stage and yeah, that
yeah,
whole Chris Stokes thing. But no,
yeah,
as far as the music, like if they come back and do a tour, I'm there. Period.
hmm
Like, yeah,
yeah. Take my money now. One group, if they saw like, hey, Backstreet Boys is doing this at the Spear, they're putting up numbers. If NSYNC were to do that,
and
take my money now.
take my money now and let them go on like a tour with all the four of the groups to get like something like that. Like, come on, I'm
Hmm.
here for it. I'm here for all of it. Yep.
Right, right. And then when you think about Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, New Edition, New Kids on the Block, how all those groups pretty much tied into where we see now with current male groups. And then, of course, I mentioned the K pop phenomenon and how they studied the boy groups and the girl groups prior
Mm-hmm.
to them. And to see, Backstreet Boys doing the residency at the Spear, New Edition did a residency not too long ago in Vegas. New Kids currently doing a residency in Vegas, and just how their legacies are. Whereas, hey, we got great groups, great songs, and the thing I think that endears them all is that they have dedicated fans.
That's true. It's all about the fans and how the fans be coming behind you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, because you got fans who will pay top dollar to go to almost pretty much every show whenever they come to town,
Hmm.
and they would just drop it, leave at a drop of a hat to go see them and just show support and show love. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know about New Kids. I'm gonna say this right here and now. I'm a New Kids fan. I always felt they got a bad rap once the pop explosion took off because a lot of people tend to look at it from the racial aspect because of being, tied with Maurice Starr, who put on New Edition, and how he said, I'm going to take New Edition's formula, put these guys here, and of course, it's going to make a lot more money because the pop demographic is a totally different game. But New Kids, they were R&B to the core. They were put together to win over the R&B consumer. They did a bootleg version of the Please Don't Go Girl video on BET, and it was because of that video a pop DJ out in Florida started playing the record, and that's how they got on pop radio's
Okay.
radar. And then that's when the pop phenomenon took off. But New Kids always mention in interviews, no New Edition, no us. I had a chance to interview Danny Wood, and Danny made it known, New Edition was the blueprint for us. We studied everything that they did, so it always felt weird when people always would refer to them as the blueprint for the
Right.
modern day boy band. And that's the one thing, as a fan of New Edition as well, I always appreciate it, is that New Kids always set the record straight and said, no,
No,
they for
it was them.
us. And
Yeah.
we just kind of came along and just added our own little flavor to what New Edition already started.
Right. Right. I love when they already when they set the record straight. Like, no, we don't want to take credit for this. No, it's somebody that did it before us that made it possible for us to do it. That make man, we making it possible for others to do it. So yeah, let's go ahead and set the record straight. Yep.
Hmm. And I also think another group who, there's this video series, I think it's called Cadillac Cruising or something, where like an R&B singer, they get into like this Cadillac and they just ride around and start singing. Well,
Yes.
recently Slim from 112 was
Yes.
just on there, and
Yes.
I put on the comment under that video, 112's first three albums, classics, no skips, especially that first album.
First one.
That first one was pressure off the
Mm-hmm.
top.
Slim still sounds the same. Do you hear how clear? I mean, just his voice. It's just so much purity. Like I don't know. They still
Mhm.
sound amazing. There was one also that for Kim, he had did his song, and
Oh
it sounds
yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
butter. It was just. I was like, if I ever happen to be somewhere where they riding down in a Cadillac singing some shit like that, like, oh man,
Hmm.
I would lose it. Yeah.
Yeah. I
I don't
mean,
know who started that, but they need to. I like that.
yeah, I like that too. Kim slid on that so smooth, so effortlessly on there.
Effortlessly.
And then, back to 112, and how when they came out, they were, one of the flagship acts, for Bad Boy. And
Mm-hmm.
pretty much what Diddy did was he pretty much took what he learned at Uptown under Andre Harrell and applied that to Bad Boy. I mean, you had 112, Biggie, Craig Mack,
Mm-hmm.
Faith, the Locks. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, despite what we know now with everything that transpired, I mean, you can't take away the legacy of what those artists did for that label, and also the producers who was under, you know, Bad Boy with Daddy's House, late Chucky Thompson, Ron Amin Ra, D Dot, Harv Pierre, Easy Mo B, Tony Dofat, Jack Knight, Stevie J. I mean, Bad Boys run,
They had it. Yeah.
at his prime was nothing to sneeze at.
Not at all. They definitely had it. And Kim, Lil Kim, like which they was
Mm-hmm.
all it was yeah,
Right.
they had it. They definitely
Yeah.
had it. Bad Boys
Yes.
was
Bad Boy
pressure.
was pressure, and it's crazy to see Mace now with Cameron with them doing it is what it is. Whereas when I think of Mace, I'm like, this is how y'all know Mace. I knew Mace when he was rocking shiny suits.
The shiny suit man. Like, yeah, back then, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. I am
yeah. I knew him when he was all in the video saying, "Nah, do what you want to do." Yeah,
uh-huh.
that's how
That's
I
the
know
way
my
he
Mace. That's
right.
how
I'm
I know
like, who
that.
is this guy? But
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, but when you think about when Mace got on a feature on a track back then, you knew your track was gonna be solid.
For
Because
sure.
Mace had that feel, that timing to where like, okay, I'm gonna do my job on a record, not overpower the lead person whose record I'm on.
Hmm.
But I'm just gonna do my thing and add my own little sauce to it, and that it worked. And I
Right.
want to transition real quick. I want us to talk about the late Aaliyah and how Aaliyah,
My shirt.
rest in
Hey,
peace, baby girl,
Leah.
how I felt Aaliyah, she was on her way to really taking off. And of course, her life was tragically cut short in the plane crash. And we just lost her too soon. But I felt like she was really finding her groove and was on her way. And, AJ Number the Number, you know, great album, subjective, knowing what we know now about that man from Chicago. But when she hooked up with Missy and Timbaland, she really found her stride working with them for One in a Million. And then, of course, when she put out, the Leah album, and then she just did Queen of the Damned, and then just hearing, how she passed. I remember hearing that in real time because I think the Access Granted that was on BET that was done prior to when she passed away, and I think she just did a MTV Diary show not too long prior to. That was really, at least for me, the first celebrity death I was like crushed over.
That is the biggest celebrity death. Still to this day for me, because I was like we were just saying, like we were there to witness these artists when they first came out, to grow to love them, to seeing them perform at different award shows, to seeing them, they're just all that. And for me, that was the celebrity death that it I really took personal, because it's like not even knowing what we know now, then it was just like, Aaliyah, really? Like, that was like an angel on earth. Like her
Mhm.
music, just her voice, just her personality, just her the way that her style, just she didn't have to do too much. She was just naturally a beautiful soul, and the music that she gave. I was just listening to Up Jumps Boogie the other day with Magoo and Missy and Timberland and her. It's just like them at that time together.
Mhm.
Um, it was just a force to be reckoned with for all of them. They were so musically talented, and for her to pass and us have to, because I remember on 106 in Park the day that it happened, when that first episode came, AJ and Free, everybody was just, it was just sad, because like, really,
Mhm.
Aaliyah
Mhm. Yeah, that was sad. And also another sad that was when we lost Left Eye.
and Left Eye, yes. And then for them to both tragically die behind plane crashes, you know what I mean? And for them, I don't know, it was just a lot to deal with. And I've been down so many rabbit holes behind, Aaliyah's death, and how they're saying that they had to sacrifice her and for Beyonce and whatever else, type of stuff that
Right.
they're saying. I don't know. I didn't
Right.
believe it at first, but now the more that I try to, more stuff that comes out, and it's like I'm not saying it didn't happen. Put it that way.
Right. So switching gears here, let's talk about the king of pop, Michael Jackson, and how Michael Jackson, the greatest entertainer to ever walk this earth, this man could literally stand on stage for 5 minutes,
Nope, did
not
not say
say
a
a
word.
word.
And people are screaming at the top of their lungs
Folks are passing out. The
and people
man
can't
had
breathe.
a country's army as his security going through. I mean, we will never, ever, 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 ever see anybody of that magnitude again.
Ever, ever. Michael Jackson is the greatest artist to ever live. The great when it comes to dancing, when it just comes to his music in general, there will, like you just said, it will never be another. Like he can't be duplicated. I would literally, I just remember as a little girl because my dad was big on music too. So you
Mm,
know, we would be watching Mike on these award shows. I remember it was one award show where I don't know what it was that was wrong with him. I don't know if his leg was broke or something, but he wasn't supposed to take the stage that night and he wasn't supposed to do anything. He was just supposed to sit there and that was it. And my dad kept saying, I know Mike is not going to just sit there. He's going to do something. Like they trying to make it seem like something's wrong with him, but he's gonna do something. And when I tell you he stood up and hit that moonwalk on him, and everybody just went crazy because that's we just sat around and waited for Mike to do something. Like because we knew he was magical just to see, just to watch, just to hear, just to see the way that people loved him. And it was all about the fans. I think Michael Jackson probably has some of the most faithful, committed, loyal fans than any other artist out here.
mm. Yes, I know when that biopic drops, it's going to be heavily scrutinized. It's going to be heavily anticipated, given, how much we loved Michael Jackson and his legacy in the music ethos. I really think it's going to do well. You got Antoine Fuqua that's directing it, and
Okay.
you got his nephew, Jafar Jackson, playing his uncle. That's pressure in itself. You're playing your uncle. But the
Right?
good thing about that is you could just go to your aunties, your uncles, your
And get the
grandma,
information that you
get that
still need.
archival footage and
The real
really
shit.
embody, you know, your uncle and really show people that hey, he wasn't what the
Fuck what you
media made him
heard.
to be. He
Exactly.
wasn't Wacko Jacko. He
No.
wasn't what the tabloids was making him out to be.
No. This is
An entertainer who loved people,
you
loved
love people.
fans,
Love music.
and the media just wanted to tear him down. And also, too, he knew more about the business than those in the suits knew. And that's the thing about Prince, too. Because Prince and Michael would educate folks like, hey, this
Mm-hmm.
business is set out to where you don't win. You got to do this, do this, do this in order to succeed. Because when you think about what Michael did, Michael broke the color barrier at MTV when they weren't playing black artists on MTV.
You're right
Michael
about that.
Jackson's music videos were an event where you had TV stations simulcasting them on networks. He knew his leverage, he knew his power, and he knew the inner workings of the game and was schooling people on how the game worked.
He was a genius. He was a genius. I like what you said about him breaking the barrier as far as color when it comes to MTV. Because let's be honest, MTV was more so for the white people. You know what I mean? BET was for the black people.
Mm,
Even though these pop artists, we had a lot of pop artists like Whitney and this, that, and the other, they didn't want to give us black people the respect or give us, the credit that we deserved. And like you
mhm,
said, him breaking down those barriers and getting those type of fans and everybody to love him. It wasn't just about the blacks. It wasn't just about
mm-mm,
the whites. This man had fans worldwide, China,
mhm,
Hong Kong, like everywhere. Everybody like
mm-mm.
loved Michael. Like
Yeah, I mean, 1 in 3 households at the time own Thriller. We won't have an album that universally beloved and accepted like that to where 1 out of 3 homes had a copy of
mm-hmm.
that in their houses.
Yep.
And, to just think of how he spent, the latter parts of his life. And I know had he would have lived and would have put on those This Is It shows that would have broke records. Some people's money probably would have been missing. Mortgages wouldn't have been paid. Car notes
Hello,
would not have been paid. Rent would
right?
not have been paid.
For
I'm gonna
real.
pay $1,000 for a cheap seat to go see him,
Hello,
but I'm gonna be in
hello.
the building.
You hear me? Let Mike had done a meet and greet like Chris Brown. They would have had to pay to keep me up out of there. What?
Now speaking of Chris Brown, I'm glad he came out on his social media and set the record straight because they tried to make, Chris Brown better than Michael Jackson. Chris Brown was like, no, no,
He
no, no,
even
no,
said
no, 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 no.
he killed that so quick.
No, 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 no,
No,
no.
no,
He's
I
the GOAT.
ain't.
I learned from him. We
Hello?
all took from Michael and added our own spin to it.
Absolutely.
But
Where do you
Michael
think Chris
Jackson
got
is
to?
the GOAT. But
Absolutely.
put Chris Brown above Michael Jackson,
No.
get the
Like,
you know
where do
what
you
out of
think
here
Chris
with that.
Brown got the move? Like, who do you think that he watched and got that from? Like, who? Usher? No, it's not Usher. Who? None other than
Michael
Michael.
Joseph Jackson. I
That's
mean,
it.
Michael Jackson, when he was promoting the Invincible album, he was on TRL promoting it. This man was at Virgin Megastore, called Times Square to shut down. This man shut down the whole street. I mean, just at the sight of the man, folks were crying. I mean,
Passing
either you
out
could
and
be
stuff.
you could be the hardcore OG gangster and
But
be
if you see Michael
crying
Jackson,
if you saw Michael Joseph Jackson standing right there.
to the
You'll be screaming and fainting like a little girl too, like that girl that Ronnie was talking about in Any Heartbreak, saying in the store signing autographs at the mall. Next in line
right?
was the fly girl standing tall. You could be like that too if
For
you saw
real.
Michael Jackson standing right there. Now, Beyonce, she's the closest to kind of having that level of impact. And I didn't witness that until firsthand when I went on vacation about 2 months ago to Galveston, flying into Houston. And half the flight was filled with folks going to the Cowboy Carter show because she was doing a weekend stand at Energy Center, and everybody was in cowboy detail, and just to see how the beehive is nothing to
They
play with.
support.
Don't come
They
for Queen Bee because they
not
will
come
come
for
for
her.
you.
That's
But
why I
just to
don't
see
say
how
nothing.
Beyonce studied Michael, Tina Turner, Diana Ross, all those acts
The
before
greatest.
her, put her spin, her twist on it.
Added her
Yes,
own,
now she is
shutting it down.
she's the baddest. She's undeniable. She gonna give you a show. You gonna pay a pretty penny, but she gonna make
It's
sure you gonna
worth
get
it.
your money's worth.
Hmm. She's an entertainer. She's a performer. She's like all eyes on her. She's gonna give you your money's worth and some. And she got
Mhm.
hits. Country. They
Pop.
hated to see her. They hated to see her coming because they already knew the force that was. You know what I mean? Like they knew
Mhm.
what it was, and they again, like you were saying, it's all about the fan base. Them beehives do not play about her. I'm not arguing with nobody about Beyonce
Mm.
because I don't need nobody coming for me online.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I know Rihanna stands are like that too, where they don't play about Riri either. And Riri, if she catch wind, she'll get on and clap back on you too.
Man, hello.
Yeah,
They
cause I
matter.
yeah, cause I think I saw just recently somebody had posted something, and it was directed at Rihanna, and Rihanna saw it, and Rihanna, boom, like I don't play that.
Shut that
I
down.
mean, she's making money off of her makeup and her lingerie, and her and ASAP
And
Rocky living their best life, having a good old time. Let them
yep.
be. I
Let
mean,
them
that's like
folks be. Let them folks
it just
be.
so that their professions are more public, and but at the end of the day, they are
They're regular
people.
people. They're regular
And
people.
one person who I love on the male R&B tip, Luther Vandross.
Luther, Luther, Luther.
Luther.
Yes.
Luther was one of the ones where his work was so good on a record. You did not know most of the records he did were covers.
Did not know that.
House is Not a Home was originally done by Dionne Warwick. Anyone Have a Heart? I think that
He
was
makes it
originally
his
Dionne
own.
Warwick.
And
Creeping,
you
originally
forget
done by
anybody else
Stevie
ever
Wonder.
made it. Nobody else after he remake it or he make it his own. Nobody did. It's his.
Yeah, it's
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 his.
Luther's.
It's
It's
Luther's now.
Luther's. It's Luther's
Yeah.
now. Look at me. Look at me.
Look how they just remade that Luther song, Caesar and Kendrick Lamar.
Oh yeah, if this world were mine.
This world with mine. Yeah, like come
Mhm.
on now.
Yeah, and with Luther, what made him special was that he's what you would call a flat-footed singer. Where put him on a stage. You don't need to do no tricks, no extras, no
No,
lighting. Just
no,
give that man a microphone.
just give him the microphone and let him sing. We don't need to watch him do anything else but sing. We just want to. That's it. That's good. His voice is
Mm,
all we need to hear. We don't need the dancing and all that
mm,
extra stuff.
mm. Yeah, so you should check out this documentary called Luther Never Too Much. It's on Max, which documentary about Luther Vandross. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And I want us to go into The Voice. You know what I'm talking about, right? When I say The Voice?
The TV show.
No, no, not the t-shirt. I'm talking about this woman who was dubbed as the voice, discovered singing backgrounds for a mother at a little supper club called Sweetwater's by
Who are
the
you talking
man with the golden ears. I'm talking about the one, the only Whitney Houston.
about?
Let's
Oh
talk about Whitney.
man, there will never be another Whitney. Probably the another that was another beautiful soul on earth. Between her and Aaliyah, those two were the deaths that took. I would say her personal, her and Aaliyah, but to Michael just because I was always such a big fan of him and his work and his music, and
Mm,
but
mm.
Whitney from beginning when she first was discovered, wasn't she discovered by Dionne Warwick, who or was that her play auntie? She was some
Dionne Warwick is cousin.
okay.
She was singing background with her mom, Sissy Houston, who was formerly of the group Sweet Inspirations, who backed up Elvis when Elvis was doing his Vegas residency at Westgate. So Whitney was singing backgrounds for her mom at a supper club called Sweetwater's. And Clive Davis, who's head of Arista Records, came in, heard her singing, and was like, I'm gonna need to sign you because I think at that time Whitney was doing some modeling because she was in 17 magazines, some other
Mm-hmm,
magazines doing
mm-hmm,
modeling and
mm-hmm.
things like that. So Clive Davis signed her and then was developing her, and then the debut album dropped in 85, and then the rest is history after that.
That's what's history. I don't know. Whitney, when she sung the Star Spangled Banner one year, I don't know what it was a long, 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 long time ago. That's honestly when I fell in love with her because I'm like, this woman is beautiful. Her voice is beautiful. Um, her gospel, I love when she did her gospel music. Like she was an excellent gospel artist too.
Hmm.
And I don't know, I was just always a big, big fan of her from day one. I know Brandy was a big fan of Whitney, and I was a big fan of Brandy and Whitney. It was just, I don't know.
Hmm.
She just had
Yeah.
a lot of. She was the queen of pop
Hmm. And then I
for sure.
believe you're referring to when she did the national anthem at the Super Bowl in '91. It was against the Buffalo Bills versus the New York Giants, and it was at the height during the Operation Desert Storm during the Gulf War. I was about 5, going on 6 at the time, and just
Okay,
remember that performance of the national anthem and how riveting it was,
it
and
was so powerful.
it was so powerful to where Clive Davis got the bright idea. I'm gonna release this sucker as a single,
Well,
and
he should.
it sold. He did,
He knew
and it
what he
sold.
needed to do. He understood the assignment.
Yes, he
Yeah,
did.
I can literally picture it right now. She has this little white thing across like a white
Mm-hmm.
headband,
Mm-hmm.
and that just hearing her that was such an inspiration for me. Like, oh my
Right.
god, and a black woman. Look at this beautiful black woman on the TV. She's beautiful. You know what I mean? It's such an
Right.
inspiration to us young women. That's what we
Right.
had to look up to when we were
Right.
young. You know what I mean? Real
Right.
black queens, women. We didn't have. They didn't have to be naked. They didn't have to do anything other than be authentic and be themselves. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
luckily, that's what we got to see growing up was
Yeah.
queens in positions
Yeah.
like that, doing stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Being very demure.
Being demure,
Being
absolutely.
demure, but Whitney, she will let you know in a minute, like, hey, don't let
She
these
gon'
gowns fool you. I ain't the one.
she'll turn up on you now.
I ain't the one.
She was sassy, you know what I mean? And you wasn't finna, I don't know how many interviews I watched of her where they thought that they was finna come incorrect or say something and she'd check their ass in a minute, like, hold on, who you talking to? Like, what?
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm not here to discuss that. Like basically mind your business and stay in your place, stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your
Yeah.
lane. Yeah.
Stay in your lane. And so that was the thing with her where, you know, you forgot that she was around the way girl. She from Jersey.
She's
But
from
because of
Jersey.
the pop marketing with Clive Davis and Arista,
Yeah.
you wouldn't know that. And then of course, once the backlash after the 87 Soul Train Music Awards, where she got not 87, I think it was 88, where she was nominated for a Soul Train Award and she got booed because the R&B artist thought at the time that her MO was just pop, and that was what Arista was marketing her towards. So when she put out the I'm Your Baby Tonight album in '89, they went and got LA and Babyface said, "Oh, we got to win back the R&B audience because we went
Yeah.
too far pop. So
Yeah.
we gotta bring her
Bring her
back
back.
over, bring her back
Yeah.
over a little
So
bit,
y'all don't forget.
so that you don't forget, like Roy Jones Jr. Y'all must have forgot." And then, of
Okay.
course, in 1989, at that Soul Train Awards, that's where she saw Mr. Bobby Brown doing My Prerogative. And then, of course, we all know, after that, when that happened with the two of them, and you know, going back to Bobby and just thinking about all that Bobby has been through, personally and professionally, and to see him still here, still standing, you know,
Remarried, living his best
remarried with
life.
his family, and just
Living with
being
his
able
kids.
to give his flowers is just a testament, a testimony,
Mhm.
to him for surviving and thriving and still standing in a business that will chew you up,
You
spit you
down.
out, and throw you away like yesterday's trash.
Yep. And won't think twice about it. Cancel you, cancel your career, and try to delete everything that you ever stood for.
hmm
Yep.
Now, another person I want us to talk about real quick. We talked about the King of Pop earlier, but let's talk about his baby sis, Janet.
Miss Jackson, if you nasty.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I thought I was Janet Jackson when I was growing up. I ain't gonna hold you. She was beautiful, man. Like just to see her in one of my favorite movies, Poetic Justice. Like she's an entertainer, she's a singer, she's a dancer, she's an actor, she's an actress, she's all in one. She's just beautiful and
Mm,
nothing like them Jennifer or that them Janet abs.
hmm
I just loved her, man. I don't know.
Right.
I never forget one of my favorite videos of her was that song with her and Busta Rhymes, and
What's
they
it
were,
gonna be?
what's it gonna be? I don't know. I was just like, this is a badass lady, man. Her brother, like everything about her, I loved how she,
Right.
just she was just who she was. I
Right.
don't know, confident.
Right. Right. Did you see the documentary that came out a couple years ago that she did?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was where like she came out, talked about her life, set record straight on a lot of stuff. And in that documentary, there was behind the scene footage of Janet working with Michael as they were writing the lyrics for Scream.
Okay, okay, okay.
And I got a chance to see Janet live. My wife and I, we went to Vegas a couple years ago. She was doing a short little residency called Metamorphosis. And her moves were crisp,
Still
clean, and was nothing to sneeze at. She was in all black too. And man, when she started smiling, sorry, wife, if you hear this, I would have folded.
okay.
I would have folded. I mean, Janet's smile is like
Angelic.
a
It's
mama's
like
hug and mama's warm apple pie with a nice
high
cold glass of
cheekbone.
milk on the side, all in one. And like I said, good thing we ain't get front row seats because if she would have picked the dude to come on stage, I would have been running like
Well,
Bob Barker would have told me to come on down.
you're the next contestant.
You're the next contestant. I'll get serenaded by Janet Demita Joe. I would have looked at my
Anybody
wife.
gonna
I would have
fold.
looked at my wife
Anybody
and
gonna
said,
fold.
let me go up there, please. Let me go up there, please."
Let me get a
But
please, y'all.
Janet, she's one of those ones where her early albums that she put out prior to Lincoln with Jamie Lewis, great albums, but to me they lacked an identity. They were great records for an
Mm-hmm.
artist, but once she hooked up with Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, they were able to really
Found her. So
customize. material that was suited for
For
her.
her.
And the most important part for them was get her out of Havenhurst, get her to Minneapolis. And while we're on the subject of Minneapolis, let's talk about the legacy and the influence of Mr. Prince Rogers Nelson.
It's the purple rain, purple rain. Oh my God. Prince, you know, people try to always put him and Michael against each other. And to
Two different
me,
lanes.
there are two different, thank you. Like, why would you try to, that's not even two phenomenal artists, two of the greatest, two of the best. That man wrote some of the best music ever. He was who he was and didn't care. He was unapologetically himself, didn't care who didn't like it. He could be feminine if he wanted to. He didn't have to answer to nobody. He made the greatest music ever. I don't know. I just, we will, I mean, we, just to be able to say that we were able to witness these great artists like Prince, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Janet Jackson, you know what I mean?
Mariah.
Mariah Carey, New Edition, all these Jodeci and this great, great music. Like, we ain't gonna get that again. We're
No,
not gonna get
no.
another none of these artists again. And I'm not knocking nobody, and I'm not saying that anybody that comes up is just like, you just cannot compare. You
Mm-mm.
can't compare, and you can't. I mean, that just is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. And when you think about Prince, he had so much talent to where he had so much material that was coming out of him. He had to put other acts out to get the excess out. The Time, Vanity Six, Apollonia Six. The Family was an offshoot of Prince. Alexander O'Neal come from that school. He was originally supposed to have been the lead singer of The Time, but had a falling out, and then Morris Day went from drums to frontman. And and to think with Prince, he did everything himself and to think about when he was showcasing his stuff for getting signed to Warner Brothers, Mo Osteen and the labels wanted Maurice White, rest in peace, of Earth, Wind, and Fire, to
Mm-hmm.
executive produce. But Prince was like, it's me or nothing at all. He
Sure.
stuck to his guns and
And
hit
that's what
pay dirt. And then, as we saw when he had the dispute with Warner Brothers over his name, scrawling slave on his face, he was championing artist rights and was all about, hey, make sure you know this, you know that, so that you can make sure your business is in order. And how, this black man from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where there's hardly any, black
mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
in that part of the country, at least at that time, thinking about how he revolutionized music to where you had to be influenced some way, either indirectly or directly, by Prince.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for Prince, no Jimmy Jam, no Terry Lewis, and all their amazing work that they were able to do once ended up getting fired from the Time, or should I say, set free after the falling out and everything with the Time, and how it was just a great time, a great run, that Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis had, and they're still doing. But I also want us to talk about real quickly LA and Babyface's run, and how when LA and Babyface set up shop in Atlanta for LaFace, that pretty much sound the alarm for any aspiring musician in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Showcase your stuff at LaFace and just be where, if it wasn't for them setting up shop there,
Mm-hmm.
no Usher,
You got to be in the right place. You
No
got to be the right.
Outcast,
Mm-mm.
no Tony Braxton,
Mm-mm.
no other Atlanta acts that were signed to LaFace would have been possible if they said, mm, let's go put our label here because
No,
we know
Tony
something is
Braxton is
brewing in
crazy
Atlanta.
because she was the face. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
so
Tony
let's talk
Braxton.
about LA and Babyface and the run of LaFace Records.
They had a good run. Like, you know what I mean? All those artists that they signed, or they were the reason for their for them to develop and blossom into what they are and the music that they wrote and the way that they managed and you know what I mean, molded the artists. Like you don't get, especially knowing now how these labels really were.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know what I mean? I could probably say Babyface was probably one of the probably as good as it gets when it comes to not being a part of no extra stuff or not having a hidden agenda or not wanting, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Really being in their best, in the artist's best interest and wanting the what's best for the artist.
Mm-hmm.
For sure had a run.
Right. And then also with Outkast, knowing now they're getting ready to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And to think how when they first came out, they got steam off of a record from a LaFace Christmas compilation album. I mean, you had to be there to understand labels used to put out what would be called compilation albums, where they would put
Mm-hmm.
out songs by different artists on the roster. So what this was a Christmas themed compilation album by all the artists that was on the Face roster. Usher, Tony Braxton, TLC, A Few Good Men, Outkast put out a record on there called Players Ball.
Mm.
And like I said, the record blew up so big to where it convinced L.A. Reid was a hey, you guys got to get in the studio to record an album. And that's where we would later get the classic album known as Seven Player List of Cadillac Music. And to think from 1993, 94 to here in 2025, Big Boy and Andre 3000 will be going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, two boys from Georgia. The South got
Mm.
something to say. We still saying it. And like I said, they're going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and you probably couldn't tell nobody that in 1994 that
You know, I
Outkast
never would have thought it
would
went in
be
that
in the
direction.
highest hall of music.
Rock. I never would have. I never would have imagined that. That just goes to show you, like the way that you start is not necessarily the way that you gonna finish. You know what I mean? Once you get your foot in the door, and if music really is the avenue that you're supposed to be in, and that's what you're supposed to do, it could go in so many different ways. And you know, you don't know what you're capable of doing until you actually doing it. They probably didn't see themselves doing rock and roll either. But I know when I first seen them, they were so unique. They were who they were. Like they weren't trying to be like nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they just, I think that's another thing that set them apart from a lot of other artists. They were just, their music was unique. It was just who they like. It demonstrated, it showed a lot of who they were. You know what I mean? Just the
Mm-hmm.
way that they dressed and their style, their
Right,
delivery. You know, just being
right,
able to listen to, they were rapping about something, like
right,
just listening to it and then going back to this is what they said. Did y'all hear what they just said? Like that's
right,
music for me.
right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and that was at a time where rap was either New York heavy or LA heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. It
the
was either or,
South
East Coast
was
or West
an
Coast.
afterthought. And then when they exploded, it took some people to catch on because, of
Mm-hmm.
course, it wasn't New York, it wasn't LA, but once it caught on, it caught
It
on.
caught
And then
on.
the same thing with the rap scene coming out of the Midwest. You had Do or Die, Crucial Conflict,
Nelly
Common Sense,
when
before it changed
started
the name to
coming.
Common. And I was curious,
Mm-hmm.
but you being in Iowa, I was wondering if you had any early inklings that Nelly was gonna blow like he did before he took off nationally with country grammar? Because I'm sure your side of the country heard a lot of early Nelly before the rest of the country heard him.
Honestly, I we didn't hear when he came out with that country grammar. That's the first I'd ever heard of Nelly.
Mhm.
Between him and Chingy, I can't remember who came out first. Was it Chingy that came out first, or was it Nelly?
Nelly came out first, then later Chingy and Jaquan. Shout out to Jaquan winning. Thank you, Shabuzi.
Jaquan. Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, like no, when he first came out with that country grammar, that was the first that we heard of Nelly. But honestly, that was the first, I want to say, rapper. He was a rapper, but he had his own way of rapping. So, you
Hmm.
know, I don't know, but the first one to actually put the Midwest on the rap or on the map when it came to a different style of rap. Like Do or Die had their own flow, they had their own style. But when it came to Nelly's style, when he popped out, like with that some Air Force Ones, and you know, we're in that
Mm.
the band-aid on it, you know, he just had his own swag and it just kind of set fire to the Midwest once he stepped in
Mm,
the scene, and did what he
right.
did.
Yeah, yeah, and
Or,
Nelly definitely, set the Midwest on fire. And then, of course, when Kanye would later come out with College
whew,
Dropout,
College Dropout, him
I
and Twister
mean,
did their thing, and they both from Chicago. Like, come on, man. What?
when I first heard the mixtape of Champions off of
Slow
Dream Team,
jam.
I played that record twice because I was so stuck by the Queen sample. Because this was before College Dropout, so this is when you had to use your context clues to try to figure out what somebody looked like. Because there was
Yeah,
really internet was out, but it wasn't as proliferant as it is now. We had the
right.
56K dial-up struggle, but it just set Kanye up to where when College Dropout came out, that it was like, okay, this guy is serious because he had features on other records, producing records for Jay-Z, other artists, and
Hmm.
by the time he came out with College Dropout, it was where like, okay, we gotta pay attention to this guy.
Yep. Yep. He's worth listening to. This guy has something to say. And he had a lot to say. It was just like, oh man, who is this? I want to hear more from him. I
Mm,
want to see more of him. When he
right.
did that through the wire, oh man, I'm like,
Mm,
yeah, he's a cold piece. Like you're rapping while you got, you know what I mean? What's going on? Yeah,
mm.
Kanye
Yeah,
was a different
Kanye
person when
was
he
a,
went.
was a different breed, and like
Mm-hmm.
him or not, he always said the quiet part out loud. When we looked at the telethon during Hurricane Katrina, he said the quiet part out loud, while everybody was like, but looking at it now, you're like, oh, he was
It needed to
sounding the
be said.
alarm when people didn't want to hear it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially looking back at it now since it's been 20 years since Katrina and knowing, everything that's taking place in this country. And that's a different topic for another day. But you and I both know what it
Right.
is. Those who's
Yep.
watching and listening know what it is. We ain't got to say it. If you know, you know.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to
You know,
say
you
about
know.
that. Like
Yep.
Forrest Gump. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I want us to talk about real quickly. Give me your one male and one female R&B group who you felt was severely underrated during the 90s. One of each.
Fairly underrated during the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm gonna definitely say Cut Close as my female group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Male group wise, underrated. Mm, I honestly don't know who I would say when it comes to male group. Oh, one group I can say that was underrated. Public Announcement.
Public announcement. Public announcement.
Public
Public announcement.
Announcement. That was
Okay.
R. Kelly's group that he made and he formed. They had a lot of good music, and they were a
Mm-hmm.
lot like they didn't get. I don't think I literally had just had an episode that we had, or a song that I had brought on from my one of my episodes for Public Announcement. But yeah, they had so many hits back in the day. Again, Midwest, right from the Midwest, like
Mm-hmm.
mhm. Two that I
Um,
would say for sure.
For me, like, I agree with you. With your female group, I go Cut Close, and for my male group, I'm gonna go with a group that not too many people may not know, but you probably would know one of the members who was in this group who later went on to go solo. Group called Coming of Age. They were based out of California, I believe. TQ was originally in this group. This was before he went to go sign with. I think he was signed to Atlantic before going to Cash Money, and he put out West Side. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, everything that came out after that. But I felt Coming of Age was severely underrated. I felt Barrio Boys severely underrated. They were a Latin R&B group put together by Joe Jacket, who was a part of New Kids on the Block camp, and pretty much the vision for them was let's do an R&B group, but let's put five guys in there that can do English and Spanish, and they were ahead of the curve too. Before what we saw with the Latin explosion that would later come in the states around 97, 98 with Ricky Martin, Enrique Iglesias, J Lo, but of course the godmother of all that whole movement was Gloria Estefan. A lot of people sleep. Gloria
Mm-hmm.
Estefan, she was nothing to play with. She set the stage for what was to later come with J Lo, Shakira, all of that. And then, of course, too, Selena was about to take off on the English side before, she was tragically taken away from us, too, because she was doing her thing on the Tejano circuit. the piano scene, and she was about to break into the English market before, her life was tragically cut short. Now, let's talk about quickly Drew Hill.
You know what? I didn't know how much pull Nico had in the group until I had recently watched Unsung, the Drew Hill
Mm,
episode on there. I
mm,
didn't know how much he was about his music and how he was really one of the ones to get things going. And you know what I
mm,
mean? Yeah, but
mm.
Drew Hill, you just had to be there. You had to be there.
Yeah,
Um, they could all sing.
yeah,
That's another
they
thing. Like
all sing they
they could
face
all
off.
sing.
Cisco, he
So
can
was
sing and give you a backflip. How you want it?
yes, yes he can. Yes he can. And they're going on tour too. Still
Mm,
sound good.
mm.
My favorite one was always the bigger guy. I can't think of his name right now.
Jazz.
Jazz. Jazz
Mm,
still sounds. I mean, they still sound amazing. So
mm.
they had a very, very, very good run from
Yeah.
from Tell Me, like just to them up there dancing and moving, and
Mm.
it was just the perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, they get that tell me dance probably from, you remember when choirs used to march in back in the day, used to hop
Yeah,
and used to bounce going through.
yeah.
They probably got that from
They
being
probably
at
did.
somebody's church anniversary program. Like, we gonna do that, and it's gonna
And they
become
took it and ran with it.
yeah, and parents are now using that as the new act right. Forget whipping.
Yep.
We're gonna
Get
do
over
Drew
here and do this.
Hills.
Yep.
We're gonna do them Drew Hills.
I
Get up
seen
against
that.
tell
Yep.
me what you want. Give me 10 Drew Hills. Let's go.
Right now.
Right now. And then after that, you're gonna be running up and down the steps singing five steps. Talking about we
For
were five
eternity.
steps. Yeah, you could be five steps from out the door when you're done with them Drew Hills. Now, the thing about, those groups is that they, like we mentioned earlier, groups were being seasoned and developed, and that requires having someone being in their corner to see the potential and to really devote their time, their energy, their efforts into making sure that they're polished and they're the best that they could be, which is why
Mm-hmm.
it's so important that we give flowers to Mr. Brooke Payne and how this man took New Edition when they were kids, said, I see something in you. I'm gonna work with you. And knowing the fact that Brooke is Ronnie's uncle, how he brought Ronnie in, and how he literally saw New Edition go from young boys to men. And Brooke Payne, I had a chance to interview him as well. Brooke Payne is all about business, no BS, and his moves ain't for the beginner. I tell you that
Mm-hmm.
right now. You're thinking you were tearing up doing If It Isn't Love in your living room, but looking at the behind the scenes videos to see the cast do it, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
nope, 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 nope. I ain't cut out for Brooke Payne's choreography. I'm sorry. Just
Oh,
just just hand me off to the side, and because I mean the choreography is very crisp, very precise. Certain angles have to be met, and how he learned from the school of Charlie Atkins, legendary Motown choreographer, and of course influenced by groups such as the Shy Blue Magic, Delphonics, Temptations, Whispers, OJs. So let's just talk about the legacy of Brooke Payne, his influence not only on New Edition, but on male groups and how stage presentation and choreography should be.
it should be. I mean, practice makes it's all about who's willing to take the time to put into, to make things for the perfection, and for him being able to mold those artists and making sure they stay on top of their game, making sure they put their differences aside. Because I don't know, did they have any? I never really heard anything about New Edition and them being, how a lot of the members might not get along or whatever the case is with that. It's all about them being willing to work together and put in
Mhm.
that work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Practicing and the hours and
right,
rehearsals and all that stuff. Like,
right, right.
you
Like you
know,
said, if it's in love, how you look at rehearsal is how you come across on stage. And the most important thing about the miniseries that it exposed to was that they were able to keep all their stuff airtight. and this was pre-social media, whereas now everybody kind of feels the need to overshare everything, whereas back then you only knew it if it was said, but it was to where when a lot of the inner turmoil and stuff that was going on with them as fans, you didn't even know it because it was
Mm-mm.
all about the professionalism, all about the business, putting on for the fans, even though you may have some stuff going on internally.
Behind
Never let
closed.
them see you sweat. And
Mm-mm.
it's just a testament to that brotherhood of New Edition and how all six were going through their own individual trials and battles, and how now it kind of reminds me of, you know, I can't recall the scripture, but about how your latter days will be better than your former days. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of think about that when I think of New Edition and how they're getting now, they're just due of what they should have gotten
Back
long
then.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
Persevering, and people are saying, okay, we understand, we appreciate you, we love you, we appreciate all that you've done for the culture. Your legacy is intact. They got
Mm-hmm.
almost everything that you could think of. They got the star of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They got a street named after them in Boston. All the accolades, the achievements under the sun. Next thing to come for them, in my opinion, is getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which I feel will be soon.
It probably will be soon. They
It will
definitely
be,
deserve to be
it
there.
will be soon. They
They
definitely
definitely
earned their
deserve to
seat
be
at the
there.
table to be there. And another person who I'm glad that we got to take seriously him as a singer is Jamie Foxx. Cause the Pete Dis album, great album. I love that album. But I felt like the problem at that album was because In Living Color was still at its height, nobody took him seriously as a singer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas it took Ray,
Especially with music.
and then after Ray, him putting out the Unpredictable album, where
That's my
people said,
favorite.
okay,
This is he's a
he could do
musician.
it. He could do it all.
He can do it all. He's writing his own music. He's even with Ray, that's his voice. That's him singing them songs. You know what I mean? Like uh, that's when he was letting people know, like, I'm not to be played with. That whole Unpredictable album.
Mm-hmm.
That song, that Love Changing with him and Mary, like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Foxx is definitely one of those artists that I don't think we really seen coming. We, like you
Mm-hmm.
just said, we were stuck on him being funny and his, how funny he was, and we would sleep on the music portion of it.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah.
would just hear him playing around on the show with the jingles and stuff like that. But it's like this dude could really sing. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was cold. He was nothing to play with.
Mm-mm.
And to me, one of the biggest mysteries when we mentioned like back in the 90s, you had various people come out with albums. I mentioned Tisha Campbell, she had an album out. Jasmine Guy from a Different World, she had an album
Oh,
out at the
okay.
time. But
Mm-hmm.
I never could understand for the life of me why Tashina Arnold never put out an album,
Didn't go in that.
knowing that
She
she could blow.
was a singer. She was a singer. She was a
She
singer.
she can
She
sing her
sung
face
better
off.
than, yeah. I never forget that one episode with her and Gina when Biggie was on there. He was looking for a background singer, and
Mm,
they were both on there cutting up, going crazy. I'm like, these fools, but they could really both sing though, and
hmm
they did. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, give Tashina Arnold like early like Mary J. Faith material. She
Mhm.
would have been out of here. And
Mhm.
last thing I want to get you on before we go, and then shout outs and everything. Let's talk about the legacy and impact of Miss Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige. Mary was so. I hate the way that she got played, and to know that how she got played, knowing the impact that she had on music and for us women when we were going through it. It's the Mary that got us through it. Like, I don't know, I know some she got some. I want my life just like she got some uplifting good music too, but what
Mm,
made Mary's music is that when you're going through the heartbreak, and you down and you going through something with one of these tech head men that, you know, and you just want to hear some music that you can relate to or something that's gonna make you feel better. It's Mary for me. It's like she was
Mm,
always the queen of that. That's what I look for when it's Mary. I don't want to hear a happy Mary CD. I
right.
want to hear a CD where Mary is going through it because that's when Mary gives the best music.
Right. Yeah, she sings from her pain and she
From the
gonna
back,
let you know how she's feeling. I mean, put her first three albums, what's the 411, My
come on,
Life and Share My
my
World,
life,
up
share
against
my world.
anything. Play those three suckers back
On.
to back, no skips. There you go. And it's glad that she's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, so her legacy is cemented forever as the queen of hip hop soul. So
And they need
before
to just let Mary just she's tired of performing. Can't you see? Have you seen some of her some of her performances? Mary is tired. They need to just let Mary chill and let Mary she did that dance a million times.
right,
She's tired now.
right, yeah. So what's the take now on we mentioned all these legacy acts, and for some of them, it's their curtain call where they're hanging it up in the rafters, calling it a day,
Mm-hmm,
and some are still out and still touring.
mm-hmm.
Do you think that with the crop of artists today and how music is consumed, that we'll ever have those legacy type of acts again, or is it mainly more so of we're listening to music from different lenses since we came from the age where how we mentioned all throughout this interview labels cultivated acts and they had those signature records that we can all still sing and dance to 20, 30 years later, but it feels like maybe for the younger generation with the artists we may not have that now, but to them it may be a signature record, or we're just kind of out of that demographic that they're trying to reach.
I think we're out.
We're out of that demographic.
I think so.
Yeah, you think we washed.
We're washed.
We
Yeah.
washed. I
And
mean, yeah.
I'm coming. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, if you've ever gotten a cassette single from Camelot Music or Sam Goody, you are washed. If you
Yep.
ever
Yep.
gotten a
Sam Goody
CD
was
from
where I got
Montgomery
all of my
Ward,
stuff.
you are washed.
Yep.
If you ever got your CD or tape collection, courtesy of BMG or Columbia House, you are washed. If
You
you ever
washed.
went to Blockbuster Music and ever listened to a CD at a CD listening station where you got 30-minute, 30-second preview, you are
You
washed.
washed.
You are washed. So we're saying that to say that we are old, but it's okay for us to
But
grow
it's
old
okay.
and to
We still got
love the
our own
music
music.
of the yesteryear.
Exactly.
And
And I'm
speaking of the
okay with that.
music of the yesteryear, shout out, get any shout outs before you go and tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, shout out to I Felt That. Again, y'all tune in. I'm on YouTube. You can find I Felt That on Facebook. We just all about the music. We sing a little bit, we talk about the artists, we talk about why we felt the music, how we related to the music, and why we still need the music. So if you guys are just looking for some good fun energy, tune into my podcast. Shout out to everybody that's been locked in with me since day one. And shout out to you, sir, for allowing me to come in and talk the talk, my favorite type of talk, which is music. I don't care. I could literally sit here for hours and just talk about music and these
Mm,
artists that we grew up listening to, that we grew
mm.
to love, that we appreciate, that deserve their flowers. Like, this is my type of energy. So shout out to you for being a music lover and taking me into consideration and even asking me to come and be a part of what you got going on.
Oh, yes, indeed. And you can catch this interview wherever you stream podcasts and on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/, Beyond the Album Cover. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big thank you for Tera Nashay, host of the I Felt That podcast. Thank you for coming on, and you're more than welcome to come back on Beyond the Album Cover at
I'll be
any
back.
time.
I will be back. I appreciate you.
Oh, yes, for